intergalactic space aliens? Do you think it's time traveling humans, breakaway human civilization?
I call it non-human intelligence.
Angels and demons, like Tucker Carlson thinks it is.
So Grush does a good way of outlining this in a way that's very factual, and he calls it NHI. I think an older term for that would be what Tucker Carlson probably calls as angels and demons. So
So like,
but it's interesting.
from where though?
But that's the thing. It's we don't know. Like, it's not like I can be like, beam me up, Scotty, and answer the questions. But
I know you don't know. But I'm just saying, like, what would your, if you were in Vegas?
I don't know that answer. But what I can tell you is it's been interesting because, you know, we go back to some of these very old texts that talk about this that were somehow removed from the Bible, which is also a weird conversation. But it's pretty straightforward in what those things are. So I don't like to tell people what to believe. What I can do is present you with the facts and tell you to read a book. You should probably read the book and then draw your own conclusions.
Representative Luna has literally just dropped a podcast episode over on the Danny Jones YouTube channel, and it has been filled with some very, 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 very interesting points, key facts, and everything else, from talking about David Grush, right, and his campaign against him when the medical records were released, her interest in where it sparked from with regards to the UAP topic, the disinformation campaigns, talking about contractors supposedly housing UFO tech, talking about all sorts of crap. Not even crap, it's just literal information, and it is crammed. So like I said, right, this episode of Danny Jones over on his YouTube channel, Anna Paulina Luna on Charlie Kirk's killer, God, Enoch, and the CIA. But one of the big talking points, of course, is the UFO topic, because obviously within Congress, she's arguably one of the biggest advocates for UAPs and the like. So obviously that was always going to be a big, big talking point. Now, we're going to dive into some of the key points, but if you want to go and check out the full episode for yourself, go over to the Danny Jones YouTube channel. You can find it over there. Now, the first thing that we're going to talk about is what Anna Paulina Luna thinks that UFOs after investigations with her task force into these objects. Now, it's very easy to just label absolutely anything and everything as a UFO, a UAP, an unidentified object, whatever. But what actually are they? This is a bit more of an educated answer, it would seem.
Do you think it's time traveling humans, breakaway human civilization?
I call it non-human intelligence.
Angels and demons, like Tucker Carlson thinks it is.
So Grush does a good way of outlining this in a way that's very factual, and he calls it NHI. I think an older term for that would be what Tucker Carlson probably calls as angels and demons. So
like,
but it's interesting.
From where though?
But that's the thing, is we don't know. Like, it's not like I can be like, beam me up, Scotty, and answer the questions. But
I know you don't know, but I'm just saying, like, what would your, if you were in Vegas?
I don't know that answer. But what I can tell you is it's been interesting because, you know, we go back to some of these very old texts that talk about this that were somehow removed from the Bible, which is also a weird conversation. But it's pretty straightforward in what those things are. So I don't like to tell people what to believe. What I can do is present you with the facts and tell you to read a book. You should probably read the book and then draw your own conclusions.
There you go. So referring to it as NHI, non-human intelligence, is obviously a very interesting way of putting it. Clearly, she's been having conversations with David Grush because that's obviously what David Grush describes them as. And Representative Luna did come out of a like behind closed doors congressional hearing. I think it was like late 2024. And she said, we've had some very interesting conversations, especially around the topic of non-human intelligence, and NHI was like a big talking point. They don't refer to it as aliens. They don't refer to it as intellectual beings or intergalactic beings. Non-human intelligence is the buzzword. Now, moving on from that, obviously they then move on to talk about some other bits and pieces. And obviously the big talking point was the UFO that allegedly got hit by a Hellfire missile and just kept ploughing forwards. A lot of people have stated it's a balloon. I can't imagine why the government would fire a Hellfire missile at a balloon. But then again, I'm not the government. So this is what she had to say on it.
The information that we released from our last hearing, actually, Representative Burleson released it. It was a piece of footage that was dead dropped to him, and you can look at that, and that's pretty wild. You have a Hellfire missile hit one of these things and it deflects it. That's not a balloon. That's not a balloon.
Who filmed that? How did that get filmed? Was like was that radar on a plane or something? Or what?
Yeah. It was from MQ-9. So
What's that in English?
Here, we'll Google it for the viewers. It's a surveillance.
Okay. A drone?
Well.
Okay. Yeah. MQ-9.
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Yep. It's our drones. AKA the Reaper is its common term.
Okay.
But it was some surveillance footage. Before. But you can pull that up, and a lot of people were like,
find the video of it, Steve.
Yeah, so like even right before hearing, we had the former director of Arrow, Sean Kilpatrick. The guy's a total clown.
Yeah.
But he was attacking our witnesses. You know, why is he even involved in what Congress is saying or doing when he's like a documented liar? So yeah, we kind of proved him right with the hearing. That was good.
So
proved him right in the fact that, you know, or proved him wrong in the sense that he has been gaslighting the American people.
Right.
Even Danny Jones there is like sat there like as the interviewer. She went in on him. The things we love to see, I guess. Things we love to see. Now, also, Danny Borland came out on the recent congressional hearing alongside a lot of a few other people as well, right? And George Knapp being one of them, and the like. But she also talks about how he faced a lot of retribution with regards to coming forward. Now, this is something that Dylan Borland already kind of discussed over on the Weaponized podcast with George Knapp and Jeremy Corbell. But this is kind of her going into detail and talking about the details as a congresswoman, as someone who pulled the meeting together, essentially.
Another individual who Borland, I think is his last name. He actually faced a lot of retribution for coming forward on this. So they try they try to go after his VA medical history, all of that. And we actually saw
who went after it.
Whoever these people are, like people within the government. But that's not the first time that we had a vet have their records leaked or attacked after coming forward.
Now, obviously, the other individual that she's referring to is that of David Grush. But this isn't all that happened to Borland, because he also stated that people broke into his house, not to steal things, but just made it very known that they were there, and what they were looking for is they laid out very specific documents on a counter and were like, this is what we are looking for. This is proof that we're able to, first of all, get into your property. Second of all, being able to find what we need and also display it without you kind of like noticing that we're even here. That's quite a scary thought. But obviously she did refer to there being another testifier and whistleblower coming forward who had their VA records pretty much outed. And this is her talking about that with regards to David Grush.
That's not the first time that we had a vet have their records leaked or attacked after coming forward. So Grush had his
So like just shadow
VA.
people are releasing this. Like we don't know who.
Well, yeah, it's like an inside job, botch job on their reputation to try to discredit them. So shortly after Grush had testified, someone leaked his medical records out of the VA.
Right.
To try to discredit him.
That's crazy. I mean,
yeah.
This is like the Streisand effect, right? Like when you're attacking these people who are coming out and saying this stuff and trying to like deliberately ruin their reputation.
They try to ruin Borland's life. He's later on. You need to watch the whole hearing. It was pretty wild. So anyways, all that to say that we just go on facts. The facts speak for themselves. I don't tell people what to believe, but I can tell you that I've seen some pretty wild stuff in this task force.
I mean, the facts are pretty damning, to be very fair. They are incredibly damning. You know, and these people are testifying about these facts and are coming forward very bravely, I must admit. Now, obviously, she also talks about locations in which people are like hiding UAP craft. Because one of the big things that obviously that came out with regards to Ross Cohart was this hidden UFO that was so large that they couldn't physically move it. So instead they just built a structure over the top of it. And that's believed to be in, I think it was South Korea. But obviously we know that Lockheed Martin is a very suspicious place. Area 51 is always brought up as a very suspicious place as to where aliens are kept and things like this. And the secrecy just adds to the mystery. But this is what Representative Luna has to say about that.
It's crazy that it seems like these private contractors have been able to get away with this for so long. It seems like since the creation of the CIA.
So I've had a lot of people say that it's contractors that are housing this tech, but I haven't been able to get a whistleblower to come forward yet on that because of fear of retribution from what we're hearing from these whistleblowers. But the information that we have seen has come out of the Department of Defense. And we have been personally denied access before by the DoD. And even up until recently, we're told that we do not have access as members of Congress to these programs. So we have to then go above the DoD to the executive branch and request access to investigate. But there have been other agencies that have briefed us on certain things. And I already know that these things are out there. So I'm not it's not changing my mind or perspective, but it's just confirmation of what we already know.
Wasn't that the whole purpose of pushing this stuff into private contractors so it wouldn't have congressional oversight and we wouldn't be able to FOIA it?
But there's still certain parts of the federal government that deny Congress access, right? So that's a problem.
We know that's a problem. And, you'd think if there's nothing to hide, then why would you deny Congress the files? And it's kind of crazy because Congress is basically the middleman, I suppose. They're government officials, obviously, but they're the middleman between, how I view it at least, is the middleman between the people and the government. And they kind of filter the information through and support with those decisions to be made. Obviously, the fact that these people, government officials, are being denied access to certain programs is kind of mind-boggling. And it leads in to this disinformation campaign, which, again, Luna discusses in this clip here.
I've seen kind of this disinformation campaign online specifically with whenever we try to do this, people coming out trying to discredit. It's well, if we're not asking questions, no one's going to ask questions. And then there was a lot of chatter trying to discredit the task force prior to the hearing. And then after we had the hearing, they disappeared like cockroaches with the lights on. And so I think that there is an effort to try to still kind of keep this stuff under wraps. But I think there's too many people.
To the Boeing whistleblowers.
That's true.
We should have called in Boeing and asked about that. But we've had it's the biggest bicameral and bipartisan issue.
Obviously, no one wants to kind of speak out because of the fear of that kind of Boeing effect, right? Where you speak out, you die, essentially. And when you Luna even stated prior to the hearings taking place that it was really hard for them to get this hearing into place because people were essentially shit scared for their lives, which you can kind of understand. Now she gets the one of the kind of last questions is her giving her opinion on what she believes UAPs to truly be and what they truly are made of.
Just go on facts. The facts speak for themselves. I don't tell people what to believe, but I can tell you that I've seen some pretty wild stuff in this task force.
The giant red square coming out of the water is just totally insane.
But it's not just him. It was multiple other people that saw it.
Yeah.
And there's reports allegedly housed at Arrow. I've had not a good experience with Arrow. I would like to defund Arrow altogether. I think they're a waste of a program.
Yeah. Out of all the people you've talked to and all the skiffs you've been in and all these whistleblowers that you've interacted with, if you were just to take, I know you don't like to speculate, but if you were to bet on what this stuff could be coming from, what do you think? Do you think intergalactic space aliens? Do you think it's time traveling humans, breakaway human civilization?
I call it non-human intelligence.
Now,
angels and demons, like Tucker Carlson thinks it is.
So Grush does a good
meteor impacts or comet impacts, volcanoes, you name it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, atmospheres can be gas, all different kinds of, the temperature can vary thousands of degrees in the atmosphere. But what he was explaining was on all the different planets, all the different moons in our solar system, the water temperature, water can only exist between 33 degrees and 200 degrees.
It's a controlled state.
So it's a very, very controlled environment. So if you were another species and you were hopping from planet to planet, you would look for the planets with the water. And we're we are a water world. If you can look at our planet, look at the Pacific Ocean, and there's no land. It's just all ocean. So that would make, and that kind of blew my mind the way he explained that to me. He's you would just hop from water world to water world to water world because you have this perfect environment.
I would say though, you would want to hop. You would do time travel if you could,
Yeah,
or
or time
interdimensional
travel.
something. Look, I don't have all the answers, but what I will say is that just based on the stuff that we've seen, there's definitely something there. I don't believe when people try to gaslight the situation because I've just seen too much publicly out there available evidence.
Now, she's obviously referring again to Sean Kirkpatrick in that situation. And now, the last thing that we're going to talk about or kind of highlight is what got Representative Luna into this kind of field. Now, Congress people, typically, right, you'd think that they would steer clear of a topic as conspiracy based as UFOs and aliens because, right, it was always seen as this like tinfoil hat wearing conspiracy nut job kind of world where no one really cared for it. But these guys are literally putting their reputations and their jobs on the line essentially to try and provide a little bit of disclosure to people. Forgot the word there. So this is why she does what she does.
It's the biggest bicameral and bipartisan issue.
What made you want to get involved in the whole UFO stuff?
I did not lead out the efforts. It was Representative Burchett who's been on this for a while, and then we suggested a hearing on it last year or last Congress, and that's when you saw the David Grush hearing take place, which was one of the most widely watched and attended hearings in congressional history. And then after people realized that they wouldn't be called crazy, then they designated the task force to kind of look into it because everyone in Congress is curious. Everyone. So that's what we do on our free time. And there's a lot to do. So this is kind of something that we've been able to do when we're not, battling it out on other issues in Washington.
Yeah.
I think that's respectable. I think that's fair enough. What do you guys make of this? What do you make of Representative Luna's, push for disclosure? Obviously, the important thing there to note is that she does this in her spare time, and so do the other guys when they're not dealing with other more pressing matters. Which clearly means that they've got some kind of vested interest in this. Let me know what you guys think about this down in the comments below. Way down there, jump to get the hell out of that like button and subscribe. And until next time, I'll speak to you later. Peace.